Doesn't it seem like everybody and their mother has a podcast? Oh, oh, so I started a podcast with my mom. We wanted a theme song so you could sing along. The show, it starts now. Hi, welcome to the show.
You're welcome to the show.
Good to see you. I was looking forward to this all day. I've been in work land and it's been manageable but stressful, and this has been a highlight on my calendar for the whole day. So I'm excited to see you.
That's great. I'm really excited to do this episode. It's going to be terrific.
Today's a special episode. Why don't you tell our friends why?
Well, it's a special episode because we are going to be joined by a guest who is a favorite person of ours. Should I wait and you can introduce her by name when she arrives?
Sure.
Okay.
That sounds great.
That's good. And it's great because she's a terrific person and she's easy to talk to and her energy is great. And that means a lot. And she's a loving person who loves people equally, who who are nice people or whatever.
I think that's a wonderful mystery description. And I will also say that yes, she manages to hold a lot of space for a lot of people, and she attracts great people. And I'm excited to see her in general. I'm also excited to ask her about her self-care routine and what she's doing to stay sane and what she's doing to help me stay sane. And so it's something I've been looking forward to all week.
I follow her on Instagram, and I sometimes respond or make a comment on Instagram, but lately I will just text her and tell her in private between her and me something. And there are days where she helps. Watching her on Instagram and connecting with her really helps me get through the day in a better way.
Oh my goodness. Hi.
Hi. Oh my God, Sharon, I can't believe how cute you look.
Oh.
I can't believe it. It's totally possible, but wow, I love the glasses. I love the zebra. Killing it.
It is
Thank
my
you.
extreme
You look
pleasure
marvelous.
to invite and welcome our dear friend Bevan to Everybody and Their Mother Has a Podcast. Welcome, Bevan.
Yay! How delightful to be here with both of you, Rick and Sharon. A delight, as always, to slide into the family.
Thank you
Is
so
that
much.
Kermit the Frog?
Probably. Where?
To your left on the string light. On the
Way up high, back by the window.
Oh, that?
No, I think it's a
yes,
dancing
look
bear.
to the right. Okay, up, right there. Oh, is
Dancing
that?
bear.
Oh, it's a dancing bear. Okay. All right, got it. That was my second guess.
But that's crazy. You do have Kermit.
You have
didn't
Kermit.
see that, though.
Same side too. Just it was not on camera.
Oh my God.
That's great. I'm not in my studio. I have all my toys and my little animals in my studio. Here it's more like, adult. So maybe next time. Oh wait, I do have butterflies.
Oh, lovely.
Fancy.
Where are you, Sharon? Are you at home in Santa Monica? Are you in the desert?
Yes, at home in Santa Monica.
Awesome.
Yes.
Rick, are you at home in Santa Monica?
I am also at home in Santa Monica in my studio workspace here. And why don't you tell us and our listeners where you are and where we're seeing you, because I want to move in.
I am on the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State. I can see Canada on a clear day, so that gives you a geographical locale.
Wow.
And I live in a little RV in a little village in the forest, and so it's really lovely.
That is so cool. And are you do you have RV neighbors near you, or are you kind of in your own space?
Definitely RV neighbors very close on either side. It's a lot like living in a dorm,
Okay.
only it's open air. So it's like, and everyone gets their own bathroom. But and to be honest, the place I live, a lot of people have permanent houses. They've just kind of like brought in and dropped. So it's about 70% little houses and then
Cool.
little outlier RVs still.
Wow. And do you like, I'm just so fascinated by that life. I'm envious and curious. Are you, I know you make friends. I know like me, people are drawn to you. So I'm not, my question is not, have you made friends? My question is this a situation similar to a dorm or other experiences like that where you just have communal spaces and you never know who you're going to meet or what kind of conversation you're going to have?
Yes, in pre-pandemic times, it was much more like that. It is very much, it's kind of like summer camp, but everybody's doing their own thing and we have activities. So if there's an activity going on, you can go and see people. And of course, people have their own little, hangouts and invite people over for dinner, but we don't have a common eating area that we do except for like Labor Day, right? So it would be nice if we had more common stuff, but we don't. So
Like
it's a little
organized activities?
organized. It's very, very lawless what we have. So we can like, if you want to make it happen, you show up, you put up some volunteer sign up sheets, people come and help. Many hands make light work. And so it's very easy to meet people. It's a retirement village. Most people here are retired. So almost everyone is over 60 and between 60 and 90 something.
Wow.
And me, 42 years old, just chilling, working.
Well, cross-generational relationships are extremely healthy.
I love it. I think it's actually, other than when you're in school and you're like slotted with people your same age, most of life is living intergenerationally. I mean, that's kind of how we are as humans. And so I value intergenerational friendships. And I also knew moving up someplace rural, I had lived in Los Angeles, New York City, and Philadelphia my entire adult life, which I think Rick has too. And I knew because of the internet, I would be able to maintain my relationships. And I had so many relationships already when I was moving away. And I knew I would need to go out of my way to interact with people because I've been working from home for a long time. So living rurally wasn't a big jump. It was just like, how am I going to socially survive? And then the pandemic happens. Then everyone was at home. So all the people I was being like, hey, let's Zoom catch up were suddenly far more available.
You famously made these moves to where you are in this lifestyle. I want to say weeks, if possibly a month or two, some amount of reasonable couple months before the pandemic.
It was 3 months. It was a very
3 months.
reasonable amount of time, like just getting into my groove and suddenly and getting ready to go on the road and like do some traveling. All gone when the pandemic.
It was, Bevan lived in Los Angeles, even though we weren't close to each other, just knowing we were in the same city was special and felt a certain way. And we always made reasons and found ways and to spend time together. And then he moved and it was like, oh no. And then a dozen weeks later, it was like, how did Bevan crush it so perfectly? She's away from people. She has a small space. If she needed to physically get to Canada, she could. She has internet. I was like, you are a fortune teller, soothsayer. I was very envious of your precog works.
But didn't you know that? I mean, already?
Oh, I wish I could say I knew that, but it was very much, I think, a knowing in just from the goddess, because like my whole life fell apart in LA. I was trying so hard to keep it together and pay like $2,000 a month in rent for my house in East LA, and like it was. I still have the credit card debt to show how hard I tried to stay there. And my mom lives here. So this is where my mom retired. And so it was really like path of least resistance. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. Let me go simplify so that I can focus on what I know I'm here to do, which is truly my aerobics class. And I was making just enough on my Patreon at the time to know I could pay my rent if I came up here and I focused on it. So now I can pay my rent and those credit card bills. I'm not really paying them off yet, but and like my electric, right? Like it's all handled. I was really dependent on touring and being a touring artist. And so pivoting to Patreon has been a delight. I'm so grateful.
Tell us about the class. Tell us about what your Patreon subscribers get to do and see.
So my aerobics class is called Fat Kid Dance Party Aerobics, which is for anyone who feels left behind by mainstream fitness. So if you've ever been called too fat, too much, or felt too awkward to dance, mine is the supportive class for you. And I offer it on Zoom, and I offer an on-demand option. That's all through my Patreon page. So at any level of Patreon support, you can join my Zoom classes. And then it's 25 bucks a month for the full on-demand membership, which is still less than one Soul Cycle class. And I film all my classes in the woods. I have different time amounts depending on, what you have available. And truly, I'm here to teach you how to love the body that you have no matter what, right? Like it's really, you're just in this present moment with this body that you have right now. How can you get into a space of connecting and moving it without all of that garbage that we're taught that gets in the way of connecting and moving and loving our bodies?
And the post that you had on Instagram recently, I don't know if I can pin it exactly, that talks about you and your decision, not what someone else tells you, not what someone else expects. And, we've heard things like that throughout life before, but the words that you use to state it were so specifically correct. It really had deep meaning for me. I just loved it. Wow. And what are we going to do, when I'm able to travel again?
We're going to party in the woods.
I'm going to visit Bevan, and we're going to dance in the woods together.
I love it. I love it.
I didn't ask her. I presume she'll have me.
I'll have you anytime you want to come through.
Thank you.
I recall in the class there was a thing. I haven't given too much background. Before you joined us, we sort of talked around who our guests might be, just because we don't want to give away any of the awesomeness or get specific, right? But we referred to us having met and we're friends, and we couldn't wait to have you. And before I get to what I'm going to say, each of us separately and collectively, my mom and I, have been so looking forward to seeing you and just spending like this time together. I can speak for myself and say it's been a very, very challenging couple of weeks personally and for the country and for the world. And this has been like well, I just know on this day I'm gonna get to spend some time with my mom and Bevan, and that will be something to look forward to. And so now we're doing it, and I'm just really grateful for this.
Oh, I'm glad to be here too.
Will you tell our listeners, I should say, so you and I met 5 years ago, last week.
Wow.
Or 5 years ago, 2 weeks ago, about 5 years ago, which is equally, I don't know about for you, but for me, it like makes total sense, is way too long and is way too short all at the same time.
Yeah, time is wild.
Yeah, and we met in Israel, or possibly at LAX. We were part of a group together. And we got to go have this incredible experience. And when I speak about you, I say, I don't remember if we met at the airport, if it was in Israel, but I specifically remember being on the bus together and sitting next to you and being like, oh, we're friends now. And not in that like smug way, but like truly sat down, was like, oh, hi, hello.
Yeah. I really remember, honestly, like when our friendship was formed, because like it was sometime in the back of that bus, and it was on our long trip up to the north part of Israel. And like I had tried sitting at different parts of the bus, but like really as a fat person on a bus with really scratchy carpet seats, I like needed to be in the back so I could have more room to kind of stretch out. And Rick being 6'20", I don't know, how tall are you? It's very 6 foot something. Where you were like in the prime seat, the very back seat, so you had the whole aisle to have your legs out, because seats were actually abnormally short and close together too. Like, so the scratchy carpet was worse, and so that's like where I found my home, in the back of the bus. And like that first time we were sitting back there together is when I feel like our friendship was formed.
I can recall the feeling, and I remember the ride. And as you're saying it, I'm struck by this idea that I had never thought about before. We both sat, I mean, there's only 50 something people, so we were sure to meet at some point, but we specifically met because of our needs having to do with physicality.
And meeting our needs too, because there were a lot of people on that bus who probably had needs like that too, but weren't bold enough to be like, I want to go be in the spot where I know I can feel more comfortable.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
right. That's true.
Flash forward, I had the invitation to lend some of my songs that made it into your programming, which I was like over the moon about, couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I don't know if you still do it in the classes, but can you talk about what happens if someone's feeling like out of place a little bit during the actual class? Is that still a thing you do?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's rule number 2 of Fat Kid Dance Party is we cheer for awkward. So if you feel awkward at any moment, you just holler out, I feel awkward, and everyone will cheer for you. And
Can I just do that like during the day wherever I am?
I encourage
When
you
it
to.
happens.
The important part, this is why I teach it. It doesn't matter if you get the rules or you get the moves wrong, because the first rule is you can't get it wrong, right? So by design, the class, you can't do it wrong. You're just showing up. Minimum participation is just showing up and cheering along, because some people need to like watch the video one time through just to know what to expect before they trust me to move with me, right? And so I created that rule just to make a safer container for people to just trust themselves, because a lot of folks with non-normative bodies don't have a lot of trust in themselves, in their body, and they certainly don't have a lot of trust with fitness professionals who have made a living out of pathologizing their body type instead of just embracing and supporting them and moving however they are. So I had the rule about awkward because I want people to name it so they take it into the real world, because everything you want is on the other side of your comfort zone. Everything that is important to you has a fear that you have to walk through it. That fear is just part of showing us that we're out of our comfort zone, right? It's just a warning signal. It's not a stop. And so when you name that something is awkward, you're taking the power out of it, because you're just saying, oh, this is awkward. But it's supposed to be awkward. That's why we have imposter syndrome, because we think that we're not doing it right, or we're not right to do it, when really everyone who starts something starts somewhere. I mean, I think there's something to honestly being great at music and picking up instruments and being used to that process of like awkwardly connecting to something for the first few times, and then you practice it, you get through it, and you go to the next stage. And I think we miss a lot as adults because we get out of the habit of being uncomfortable, because it's easier to stay comfortable than it is to do something new.
Wow. Wow. So fatkiddanceparty.com. On Instagram, we can go to where? At Bevins Party, BEVINS Party.
Yes, Bevins Party is my main account. And then of course there's a Fat Kid Dance Party aerobics one as well, which is just at Fat Kid Dance Party.
All right. What are you doing in addition to Fat Kid Dance Party and being yourself and connecting with your friends to stay sane and to continue self-care right now? Because I need some help.
Therapy. I normalize going to therapy like going to the gym. Like even when I'm not in crisis, especially when I'm not in crisis, I need my therapist, because like I'll have like little realizations. I think some part of this pandemic for me has just been alone without distractions. Travel used to be a huge distraction for me. I actively knew that I was traveling instead of like sitting still with myself and seeing what was going on. As young as like 30 years old, I was aware of that. And so to have travel, like, see, I'm a touring musician, or a touring artist, right? Not a musician, but a touring artist, right? I bring my class to people. A full third of my online class regulars now are people I met because I was out on tour and did a class and they came. So it's interesting, right? Like, so I built my whole brand and my whole business strategy around moving around. And so now with the absence of changing spots and without that distraction, I'm alone with my thoughts a lot. And so I like to create a life where I love the person I'm alone with. And I have a therapist to help me connect to the parts that are harder to love. So it's that. And I would say, you know, other than the other things you mentioned, Fat Kid Dance Party and talking to my friends, socializing is super important. I find if I can connect, like really connect more than just hi, like a, hey, how are you? And really pause and hear the answer and connect with someone. If I get at least 3 of those a day, massive change in my mental health.
Wow. Physically in person, like people around the community there, or virtually?
Yeah, in person, could be a Zoom, you know, could be a FaceTime. Like, this is why I hit my friends up to talk, because like, I know if I can get 3 a day, even if it's like a 10-minute check-in, like 3 of those a day massively changes how I feel.
Love that.
Wow.
Right? It's a very doable thing. And we don't think about that, how much we need other people, but humans are a social species. And I'm an only child and I work for myself. I'm real good at staying alone, but like, I actually do need people.
Mm.
And then I think like another big thing for me is plant medicine, like cannabis has been such a helpful
Yeah.
thing. Because it's all, if even if I'm having a rotten day, or even if the world is bonkers and I just don't understand how I'm going to get through this, I can just like end my day, go on my forest walk, have a few puffs, dance in the woods, and like get back to myself and get back to my good feelings. And it's not like my hard feelings are bad. I try to be present for all of my, I too have been feeling kind of sad like the last few days, especially like
Yeah.
I keep trying to figure out why and why not, right?
Why
Like there's
not?
so much
Of course,
going on. It's
of
like,
course. Well, 2 + 2 = 4, of course. And if you're listening, of course you're. I mean, I'm upset by people who aren't upset right now.
right? So like, I mean, and I'm a pretty sunny person. My therapist said if he could give an award for like the most upbeat in the pandemic, it would be me. And I was like, oh, I would put that on my fridge. Like, that's
Wow. I got an
great to hear.
award. I got an award during the pandemic for quarantine partnership and show rewatcher.
Oh, nice. Oh, you got an actual award. Look
Yeah,
at
it's a
that.
It's a Dundee.
Dundee.
My girlfriend gave
Dundee.
this to me as a gift. Dundee Award, best quarantine partner, parentheses, and show rewatcher. But for your therapist to tell you that you're the most upbeat person in the pandemic is pretty high praise.
I felt very, very good about that. And also while we were actively discussing why am I feeling sad, which like, you know, there's plenty of reasons to feel sad, but if I can allow my present moment to be juicy, like, you know, that song, I was listening to Ott's Country yesterday in the forest because music has also been a heavy lifter for me in this pandemic. And in this Ott's Country song, it's like that life is good today, like no worries in the world, got my feet in the sand, right? Like, and I was like, can I get into that vibe right now? And I could. I just like I erased the past, I erased the future. I was just here in the forest in a life is good place. And I was like, yes, I can feel like life is good. And that is to me, I think my mental strength is like, how can I make the present moment expand so that the uncertainty of tomorrow, which is really what's plaguing, I think most of us, is like, what the F, right? Like what's happening? How can this happen? And like all the stuff that's been happening, like if we can just expand our present moment, that really takes a lot of the anxiety and the depression out for me and like drops me into what I have control over, which is really just this present moment.
Gosh, I love that. Thank you. It's hard to put with the future as unknown as it always has been, but feeling extra unknown, putting it into some context where the present is smaller or a part of that whole is extremely difficult. I've voiced this before, I think maybe on the show, that the imagining of a positive near future in and of itself is an act of violence, because I'm reminding myself that it would be some way different compared to, and I hesitate to say how bad it is now because I also recognize there are variations and I can only speak to my experience, but the idea of like, oh, one day ... becomes like a painful suffering moment because it's an awareness that it's designed to try to not be feeling everything that's here right now.
Yeah, I've been working really hard on like law of attraction stuff and really recognizing that the juice that works to bring things into fruition is to be an appreciation of where you're at now. There's always something to appreciate, even if it feels like trash and it feels like it's on fire. Like there's always some like, what can I appreciate right here? What can I be grateful for, right? And gratitude and appreciation are different feeling tones, but similar. And like using that and also allowing the contrast, meaning the things I want to have happen, to have space too, so I can vision for, you know, I mean, I want to see my aerobics videos with your amazing music in Costco, right? Like I want that DVD to be like an impulse buy for middle America, but like, so I have to see that happening in order for that to come to fruition, but I don't need it to happen in order to feel fulfilled. For me, fulfillment comes from my regular attendees telling me, I used your move before I had a job interview and it helped me feel better. Or I was bummed out and I used your mood and it helps to lift me up. Like that's success to me. Like I want to be in Costco, but like also I'm really appreciating where I'm at now.
Wow. I everyone has water except me, and I'll be right back.
That's great. You look wonderful.
It's
Just-
also, that was a bit of a
just
sneaky
one-
water move. This is my water bottle.
Oh my God. Wait, this is my reality water bottle. I still have it, but I made Fat Kid Dance Party water bottles to
Ah,
look like,
Got it.
because
So
I
this,
road tested this one for so long. I was like, this is the best water bottle in the world.
we got these the day we met.
Huh? I ended up with two somehow. I think because Gabby Bluestone left hers in my hotel room.
That sounds right. I can't figure out why, but that's right.
I have no comment. So Rick, can you please assist me by telling the story, which Bevan knows, of the first time that I met Bevan at that
Yes.
event at the table?
Yes. So Bevan and I would have met in August of 2016, and about a month later, Bevan was at your house, but you weren't there. I hosted people at your place and you weren't there. You would have met her a month or two later, would have been right after the 2016 election, where we were all put onto the other branch of this timeline that we're now having to suffer forever.
So this was a time when I actually went out of the house. And
You
I
went out of
let
the
people
house.
in my space.
We went out of the house, and Bevan and I produced an event that was around sort of just sharing space post-election madness and tragedy.
Where was
and it
I?
was what?
Where was I?
Where were you? No, I'm sorry. So we put this event on in November. Would have been like the third or fourth week in November, possibly first week
It
of
was
December.
January. It was on Inauguration Day. It was January 20th.
Thank you. Wow, I imagined it in November after the news. Would have been months later, so we would have been really in our feelings, trying to figure out what the F was going on. And it had a good name. I'm not remembering what the name is right now.
Love and Resistance.
Love and Resistance. God, that's good. That's really good. I bought the website domain pandemicresistanceart.com.
Ooh.
And I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but I think it's going to be a catch-all for people to submit what they did with their time, artistically or otherwise, during this time.
The albums coming out right now are so good. Like the art I'm already experiencing from this pandemic is so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we put Love and Resistance together, and it was everything from me sharing music that I just created out of that experience, as well as people speaking about poetry readings and angry feelings and all these things. And towards the end of it, well, you met Bevan that day, Mom, and towards the end of it, one of the big sort of grand finales, I don't want to speak to it. Bevan recreated something. Tell us what you recreated or did.
So we did this thing when we were in Israel together. We went to this surprise dessert where we like walked into a restaurant, stood around tables that were covered in foil, and the wait staff brought out dessert and just kind of did this whole dessert mess on a table where it was like communal. We just ate from it. And it was sort of performance art and sort of food celebration and like very confusing late night Jerusalem party. And so I recreated that like just to create our dessert for the Shabbat dinner. And I did it while talking about Mariah Carey's, I forget exactly my premise. I had a premise and it was about Mariah. What I learned from Mariah. It was something about Mariah Carey and like resistance and her owning herself somehow. And like I talked through it while playing Mariah Carey and setting out all this dessert stuff. It was really funny.
So my experience was I saw Bevan, pardon me, and there's a long table, I guess a 6-foot table, and she unrolls plastic, maybe heavy duty plastic on the table, and begins to dump fudge, right? Different gooey
Sponge cake and drizzled caramel.
It was all gooey stuff.
And
marshmallows. And whipped cream and sprinkles or jimmies, depending on which coast you're from. And I'm watching this, and she's lecturing her this thing while she's doing this. And it was a totally immersive experience. No thoughts came into my head. I was like, what? And then everybody ate it with their hands, right?
Hands works. We would not do that in these pandemic times.
Well, that's the thing, right? So the
It
Israel
was
experience
outrageously wonderful.
and the love and resistance experience, part of it is this tweaking our minds of what dessert can be and what performance and how art can be edible and all these things. And then certainly in Israel and to a degree at this event in Los Angeles in January of 2017, it's about now you're shoulder to shoulder, like, oh, try this. And people were, oh, did you put this in here? And so it's very sexy. It feels very like speed datey, but everyone's on the same page and it's about dessert. So you kind of don't care about anyone else, but you also are like, so there was this very overwhelmingly cool experience about the communal nature of it. That is, to describe that now is an actual nightmare. It would be insane to do that now.
Unless you're with your quarantine pod. In which case,
True.
It's kind of, I mean, an ice cream sundae bar is like one of the most beautiful things that like you really can only do in a group, right? So like thinking of
Says you.
and I always, that's me, fair. I mean, I just feel like there's like this communal, trusting, germ connecting thing that we did back
Mhm.
and now that aerosols matter, like it's a sacred memory.
It's a very
Something
sacred
like-
memory.
It
I have
is-
video and
it is
photo.
definitely a sacred memory.
I think I have. I know I have photo and video of the Israel experience. I think I have from Love and Resistance as well. So I'll see if I can do some overlays while this part of the conversation is happening on the show.
I can try to find and send you. I think I have a video of it on my Facebook.
That's great.
Yeah, it was
Sure.
like I think I had someone just go live and tape it, so I think it's up on Facebook.
It was so special. You have a podcast, I hear?
I do have a podcast. It's called Bevan, a femme over 40 and her friends. And you can find it on all of the podcast platforms by just looking for Bevan, Bevin. And the premise of it is that there are millions of ways to be a happy and successful adult. And we're really taught like just one path when we grow up, like go to school, maybe get even higher ed, get into a lot of debt, get a job, and that's supposed to make you happy. And that ended up, I went all the way through lawyer. Like I was a practicing lawyer for 15 years and I got very mentally and physically ill from that. And I had to learn a new way of being. And so I kind of think my friends are a great example of different ways to be a happy, successful adult. So that's the premise of the podcast. It's a great way to hang out and get to know me. And like, I think I'm realizing more and more in these times, I just think so differently than the average person because I've spent, when I was around in my early 20s, I kind of learned that everything I'd been taught about my body was a lie.
I was wrong.
Right. And I just believed my body was a failure for so many years when in fact,
Who made these rules?
who made these rules? Exact people who want to
made
sell
these
you
rules?
stuff. It follow the money always, right? Like it's the people who want to sell you stuff. Why was the US in Afghanistan for 20 years? Look at who's getting paid.
I mean, how else would have 8 American companies become trillionaires? Let's be fair.
Exactly. Follow the money. So now that I've really worked for a couple decades and counting on like changing the way I think I'm a refreshing influence. And so if you want to learn a new way of thinking to hopefully liberate you, I mean, you don't have to think like I think, just be willing to think a little differently than like the way CoverGirl wants you to think or
Mhm.
the weight loss industry or whoever else is trying to like get your pickpocket you because you feel bad about yourself.
Amen. Well, I will listen to your podcast. It is so wonderful to have you here. Our listeners should go to fatkiddanceparty.com.
Mhm.
They should go to anchor.fm/Bevin, Bevin. They should
Mhm.
follow you on Instagram at Bevin's Party as well as at Fat Kid Dance Party.
Huh?
I love you. I miss you so much.
Oh.
It feels so good to just, don't.
Hug me from afar. Do this with your arms. This is how you send a hug through
A little
the
much,
internet.
but I will.
It is a little much. Let's too much, Rick Sorkin.
Love
Let's
you.
love each other too much. Oh, Sharon and Rick, you're just such delights. I love having you in my life. I love a twofer. I love when I make a friend and then I can make friends with their parents. So
Well,
good.
I only introduced my mom to the good ones, so I'm glad this worked out.
Yeah. Also, great pool. I was just looking at a flashback of me floating in that pool. I think we had like a donut floaty or something.
I know that
Was
picture. You're on the
wonderful.
pink donut float. I'd love to see that picture again
It
too, if
was
you have it handy.
delightful.
Yeah.
Mm.
Rick, will you ring your chime that's right behind you? Yes.
Did that record?
Oh my God, it sounds amazing. I'm getting all these tingles.
I have a theremin back here too. That's for next time.
Ooh. Yay.
Thank you so
Kevin,
much for
thank
joining us.
So delightful to connect.
Mm.
I don't remember what you say during the high holidays. It's not happy high holidays.
Lashana Tova.
Not Tova, that's right.
And you could also just say Happy New Year. I wrote to somebody earlier. I said, Happy New Year if you celebrate, parentheses, Happy New Year even if you don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Happy New
Thank you,
Year.
Bevan.
Happy New Year.
Come back and
Happy
see us
Labor
again.
Day.
I will.
Thank you.
Love you both so much.
Love you. Bye. Wow. I think that was a successful interview.
You know, she's as delightful and wonderful as she can be.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That she's wonderful. I mean, I
Your
know that.
biceps. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Look at those biceps.
Really? I thought I had.
Yeah.
I thought
Woo.
I'm not doing enough.
Mom, you look great. That's great.
Thank you. But when I'm just standing here, it looks like I have no muscle.
Do you want it to look tight when you're just standing there?
Well, you know, my arms look skinny and they don't look like.
They look great. I think
Thank
that
you.
that's
I
like
need
the
to do
goal.
more
For,
with
that's a lot of people's goal.
Thank you. Now I
Oh,
just have to remember to eat.
I have to remember to eat also.
You know, you were feeding me in the desert and I was eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, desserts.
Are you
and
not eating enough?
I don't really have that much of an appetite. Now I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm not
But,
eating enough either. I'm not eating enough during the day, and then I'll make something
Me
later
too.
and eat a lot in the evening, and then wake up feeling like I ate too much, and then repeating, not eating. So it's a bit. I'm trying to break this cycle, but it's been a
That
while.
sounds pretty much right. That sounds pretty much like what I'm doing. And I say to myself, all right, so you'll have, I like to start out with peanut butter. So you'll have peanut butter and it doesn't digest that easily, but I still eat it and I like it. And I'm like, I'll have my second breakfast now. I'll have yogurt. And I look at the clock and it's like 1:45. It's like, okay, I missed breakfast and now I'm missing lunch. And then I go off and do something else. And I'm like, no, it's 1:45. I don't think I really ate much today.
Yeah.
And I got myself on track and said, I'm going to do better. You know, and I eat nuts during the day and sunflower seeds. That's easy. And then I realized I wasn't doing that. So I do know when I get anxious, I lose my appetite.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
why I've never been heavy, although I've been very much anxious.
Oh, I love you.
I love you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome for what? But okay.
Doing this show together, spending time, making time, being my mom, understanding me,
Thank you.
being friends with some of my
Sweet.
friends, being good at co-hosting, having tight arms. I don't know.
You're very good about sharing your friends. Some of the best people in my life are people who are
Mm.
your friends, who I met through you. And
Mm.
even the ones that turned out to be, you know, the occasional one that turned out to be a clunker was such fun ride before it blew up that I'm still glad that it happened.
I like how you phrase that very much. To the clunkers. Well, thank you all for listening, for joining us, for sharing this space with us, for welcoming our friend Bevan to the show. Subscribe if you haven't already. You know, there's merch on sale. link below. Check us out on YouTube if you're only listening to this. Check us out on Spotify if you're only watching this. And please just stay safe out there. I know that it's crazy and hard and difficult and all those things. And we'll see you next week. And we're also going through these things and we're also doing the best we can. So keep sharing space with us and we will still, and we'll do the same with you.
Nice. That's well said. Thanks for doing that.
And don't forget to call your mother.
Doesn't it seem like everybody and their mother has a podcast? Oh, oh, so I started a podcast with my mom. We wanted to feel